Hi guys, welcome back to Outdoor Instinct. Today I have a video for you on how to save your Otter Sled. Let's get right into it. Alright guys, so like I said, I'll be showing you how to save your Otter Sled. And that is by adding these Hyfax sliders to your Otter Sled. I will be showing you guys how to do this to your Otter Sleds and what Hyfax I chose for mine, and how to install them, not based on the instructions, but based off of how it works for the sled and these Hyfax rails. So these are the Pelican rails. I ordered these off Amazon. They're like 35-40 bucks for a set. Comes with the bolts and the screws and everything you need. Full kit comes in the bag. Comes with these rails. It just so happened that these rails would work perfectly for the sleds that I have. So I will be showing you guys how I am installing these on my Otter Sled. Alright guys, so this is everything that comes in the kit. It comes with 4 Hyfax slides, which are currently curved the wrong direction. Comes with instructions, which, I mean, I don't need those. So, and then it comes with some screws and some bolts and some funky looking nuts. So I'm gonna dump these out in my magnetic tray, and then we'll get into how to put them on. Alright guys, so I got my screws and my bolts dumped out into my magnetic tray here. These are the nuts that you use. They got like a sleeve on them, and it's threaded for most of the sleeve, which is kind of neat. As you can see, they got some threads in there. And it's got a sleeve to slide through the plastic. And then these here are the bolts that you use. They require an Allen wrench. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but they require an Allen wrench about 1 inch long or so, and they thread right into the nut. You just gotta make sure it's straight. Comes with a little bit of I would guess that that's Loctite on there, which is nice that it comes with that already on it, so you don't have to worry about it. And then you'll use these little screws to secure them the rest of the way throughout the sled. So the nuts and the bolts go at the front to keep the front secured, and then so these go at the front, and then the screws go the rest of the way down the sled. It says for tools required, you're going to need an Allen wrench, obviously, to tighten up your bolts and your nuts. You're gonna need a 7/16 wrench for this kit. I chose a gear wrench. So you're gonna need those two. And then it says you need a screwdriver. So it says you'll need a screwdriver to put in these screws here. But why would I use a screwdriver when I have an impact? So that's what I'm using. And this one, the screw heads are a Phillips /square. So I chose a square bit for my impact to put them in, just because I felt that it gripped the screw a little bit better than a Phillips did. So I chose to go with the square bit because it didn't slip nearly as much. And then you'll need a drill bit, 1/4 inch, I believe it was, to put in these sleeves through the sled and the Hyfax rails themselves. So you'll need a 1/4 inch bit to put those in. And then, yeah, you gotta drill a hole through your, so then you have to drill a hole through your Hyfax slides, about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch back. You just wanna try and get them straight. So you're gonna drill your hole through your Hyfax. just like that. Try and keep everything straight so you get a good square hole. Well, it's gonna be a round hole, but that your hole is square through the Hyfax rail. And these rails have a color change in them. They go from white to red, and that is to alert you that you should change your Hyfax rails. They also have, I don't know if you guys can tell on this camera, but they have a bit of a divot in them just to show the center of the rail. And that is really nice when you're putting the screws in. Then you can tell that your rail is centered on your screws. And I did almost zero measuring putting these on, the other rails on, and I will do almost zero measuring putting these on as well. So I'm going to start by just drilling all my holes in my Hyfax, just so that that is out of the way. They're mostly straight holes. Okay, so you can take your Hyfax rails and set them aside. Now, as you can maybe tell, they're curved the wrong way to be put on the sled, because they have to be curved this way, not this way. So what I did for that is I just took and pushed down on them around the sled, or you can take and bend them around your knee to get them to conform to the sled before you start putting them on. It just makes it a little bit easier, so then you're not fighting it the whole time. And I just kind of did the rest of the way down the rail as well, so that way it goes onto the sled nice and straight. You might have to use maybe something to grip this other end, you know, so you can really pry down on it to really get that tight curve in the end of it. Just so that way you're not fighting your Hyfax rails the whole time you're installing them on your sled. You may have also noticed that there is only 4 Hyfax rails and there are 5 bumps where you're going to want to put them. I'm not going to worry about the middle one. I'm just going to go to the outside 2, and then the center one will be fine. If it's that deep, then I'm not too worried about it anyway. So it's just mainly for when you're on hard surfaces. You know, boat access landings, that kind of deal, where you're going to want the Hyfax rails. So I'm just going to put them on the outside 2 on each side, just to keep it from wearing down my sled when I'm going across the concrete, pavement, down gravel, anything like that. At anything you'll find at a boat access that would be very abrasive on the sled. I'm just going to use the rails to minimize that. So it's not really going to be for keeping it straight behind the four-wheeler or snowmobile, even though I'm sure it'll help a ton. It's just mainly to lengthen the life of the sled while I'm dragging it across hard surfaces, because you do drag it across hard surfaces more than you realize. So that's what the Hyfax rails are for. So I'm going to bend this so that way it's conformed to my sled a little bit better than what it is now. As you can see there, I conformed it pretty close. If we lay it in this one here, it's actually a bit overdone, but that's no big deal. So you're definitely going to want to do this. It makes it way easier if you pre-form it just a little bit. It'll really help you put it when it comes time to screwing it on and putting that bolt in. It'll really make it a lot easier to mount it up properly. So I'm just going to move my screws and stuff out of the way, and then you're gonna wanna empty out your sled, and then you're gonna wanna flip your sled over, essentially. As you can tell, this one is not brand new. I've used this one for a couple years now, and I really like it. So I just now decided that I should put Hyfax rails on it because I noticed the bottom's getting pretty scuffed up just from abuse. So I decided to put the Hyfax rails on it now. Figured better late than never. So, and these rails are cheap compared to a new sled. New sled will run you probably 80 bucks or better. These rails were like 35, 40 like I had said. So these rails are really cheap compared to a new sled. So we'll see how well they work out. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna line up the back of your Hyfax with the end of the rib here. So you're gonna wanna try and line that up and then figure out where you need to drill your hole on the curved end. So that way it lines up with the back, at least pretty close to the back of this rib. Because you see the rib ends here, you want the Hyfax to run pretty close to the end of that. It doesn't have to go all the way flush to the end, but just so it's close. So then you wanna figure out where you need to drill your hole on the front for your bolt, because you're gonna start at the front. And then you need to take your drill and drill yourself a hole up there. And then once you get one, you can measure the rest of them. And they'll come out pretty close. And then once you get your hole drilled through your Hyfax and your sled, as seen here, Hyfax and the sled, you're going to take your sleeve nut and you're going to slide it into the hole like that, and it fits in there perfectly. I'm going to set you guys up here so you can see what I'm doing. And then you're going to take your bolt and you're going to pop it through the hole, and then you're just going to start threading on your bolt to your nut if you can. Sometimes it takes a little bit of finagling here. You can't, it's kind of weird because you can't just grab onto it like if you're bolting a brace or bracket or something, because it sits flush to the sled. So it's kind of awkward that way. And then once you get your bolt started, you come in with your tools. Okay guys, so what I did is I bolted it on, you guys seen that, and then I took and ran those 3 screws in there to hold it on there, and then I put 1 screw on in the back. So this whole middle piece so far is just loose, so I got it being held tight around the curve and then in the back as well. So that way it's holding it down flat and it doesn't move around much. So that's what I did, because I knew I'd want 3 screws up front right out of the gate. So I put 3 screws in up front to hold it to the curve, and then I put 1 screw in the back, and then I'll run the rest of the screws in throughout the center, depending how many I have left over once I have the other rails put on. So once I have the other rails put on, then I will come back and screw down the center of this. I know it's probably not recommended in the directions to do it this way, but this is how I'm doing it. Alright guys, so I have all 4 mounted on except for in the centers. It went smoothly. I went and bolted them, curved them all, bolted them all up. Then I came back and screwed them all down here. And then I came in and screwed them all in the back. So they're tight back there. You you want to be careful with the impact so you don't over tighten them. As you can see, got my screws there. Got my 3 screws, 3 screws, 3 screws, 3 screws, and then my bolts in the front, which sit very smooth and flushly. I must admit, they sit much smoother and more flush than I thought they would. Figured they'd stick up just a little bit more. So now it's time to take and divvy out the rest of the screws in my tray here. So I'm going to start with 2 per deal. Oh, sorry, middle one don't get one. Oh, 3 screws. Uh-oh. I appear to be, oh, nope, there it is. It was on the outside. Ha! Tricky. It's stuck to the outside. Alright, so 3 screws in the middle per Hyfax rail. I'll just set them so they're distributed evenly from this screw here to the last screw there. I'll just probably put one in the middle and then one in between each on the ends.